Hello, my dear students. In this video, we will be having Introduction to Geometry. So we have these topics. First, undefined terms. Second, subsets of a line. And third, we have angles. So at the end of this video, you're expected to represent point, line, and plane using concrete and pictorial models, illustrate subsets of a line, and classify the different kinds of angles. But before we proceed to those three topics, let's take a look on these illustrations I will be showing you. Observe and tell me your observations. First, what can you see here? You're right. The illustration is all about a sky with stars. Can you imagine a night without stars? How will it be? Nice answer. How about this one? What can you see here? This is a picture of roads. What can you see on the roads? You're right, they have lines. Now, what do you think will happen if there are no lines on the road? All right. How about this one? What can you see here? It's a paper. How useful is a paper? That's great. Now, these three figures involve the three undefined terms. And the answers you give are the reasons why we need to study them. Now, let us unleash the three undefined terms by looking back at these illustrations we had. So first, we had the stars. How do these stars look? You're right. They look like dots or points in the sky. And that is our first undefined term. We have the point. How about in this next picture? What makes the road safe to track? Very good. It's because of the lines on the center and the sides. And that's the second undefined term. We have the lines. How about this one? Describe the paper. Correct. It's a two-dimensional figure. And we call that a plane. So these three pictures represent the three undefined terms in geometry. We have the point, the line, and the plane. So let's have now our first topic, which is all about the undefined terms in geometry. But before that, let us have first the definition or background of geometry. Geometry comes from the two Greek words, geo and metron. Geo means earth and metron means measurement. So from these two Greek words, so by definition, it deals with the sizes, shapes, positions, angles, and dimensions of things. Let's now have the three undefined terms in geometry. These terms are said to be undefined because they do not have a formal definition and cannot be defined using other geometrical terms. So instead of defining them, they are being described. As what we have said a while back, these are the point, line, and plane. Let's have the point first. A point is a non-dimensional figure. Non-dimensional because it has no length, nor width, nor thickness. And it is represented by a dot. We have 3 points here, namely point X, point P, and point A. So take note, in naming a point, we use capital letters. So if we're going to write the name of those 3 points, we have point X. Take note, that point is written before the capital letter. We also have point P, and of course, we have point A. So that's all about point. Let's now proceed to the second undefined term. We have the line. A line is a straight, one-dimensional figure having no thickness and extending infinitely in both directions. That one dimension is the length because it can be extended in both sides. Therefore, for the figure of a line, we have arrowheads on both sides or both ends. Now, in naming a line, we can use one small letter like this one. Take note, the first line here is named M. So, it's line M. And on this second example, we use 2 points that are on the line. Those are points A and B. So another way of naming a line is using 2 points that are found on the line. So we can name that as line AB or line BA. Observe that the symbol for line, instead of spelling it out, we use a horizontal line with arrowheads on both ends written on top of the two capital letters, which are the name of the 2 points that are on the line. So this is line AB and line BA. Let's take a look at this figure. What can you see here? Okay, we have here 3 points that are on a line. We call those points collinear points, which means points that lie on the same line. That's why collinear, same line. Now, what if we have another point which is not on the line? If those points that are on the same line are called collinear, two or more points that are found, two or more points that are not on the same line are called non-collinear points. So we can say here that point D is not collinear with points A, B, and C. Let's now have the last undefined term. We have the plane. A plane is a set of points in a flat surface. It has length and width but has no thickness. So it's a two-dimensional figure. We have here examples. Using points, three non-collinear points determine a plane. If you have 2 points which are collinear, then you form a line. But if you have another point which is not collinear to the points on the first line, then we form a plane. Now, there are two ways in naming a plane. First is using one single letter, but it must be a capital letter. So we have here plane N. To differentiate the name of a plane with that, to differentiate the name of a plane with the name of a point, we have to spell out plain before the capital letter. Like this one, we have plain N. Also, we can use 3 or more points that are found on the plane to name it. Like this second plane, we can name that as plane KLM. Next, we have this figure. We have here plane KLM and point N outside that plane. When we say coplanar points, these are points that are on the same plane. So in this figure, points K, L, and M are coplanar points. But when we say non-coplanar points, these are points that are not on the same plane. So again, in this figure, we have point N is not coplanar with point K, point L, and point M. So those are all about the undefined terms in geometry. The point, line, and plane. Let's now have our second lesson about the subsets of a line. First, we have line segment. It is a part of the line with two endpoints. We have here a figure of a line segment. In naming a line segment, we use the two endpoints. So if we're going to name this line segment, it's line segment AB. Or in symbols, we have this one. So take note, for the symbol of a line, we use a horizontal line with arrowheads on both ends. But for the symbol for a line segment, we use a horizontal line without arrowheads on both ends, drawn on top of the two capital letters, which are the endpoints of the segment. Or we can use line segment BA. Next, name all the line segments in the figure. Take note, the given figure here is a line. But since line segments are part of a line, then there are line segments on this line. So it's like removing the extended part of the line like this. So if we're going to name all the line segments here, we have segment MA, segment MT, line segment MH. We also have line segment AT, line segment AH, and segment TH. Next, we have the second subset of a line. We have ray. It is a part of the line with one endpoint and extends infinitely in the other direction. In figure, we have this one. So as described, on one end is an endpoint and on the other end is an arrowhead, which implies that it can be extended infinitely to the right. In naming a ray, we can have ray AB, right ray before the, or in symbols, we have this one. So for the symbol for array, we have a horizontal line with an arrowhead to the right. And in naming rays, always start from the end point. Since we are using the 2 points that are on the ray, take note the first letter should represent the end point of the ray. And the other point should be any point on the ray other than the end point. So that in writing the symbol for a ray, the arrowhead should always be at the right. Let us have more examples. So in here, name all the rays in the figure. So again, in this figure, we have a line. Now, to easily name the rays in the figure, let's remove first the extended part of the line on one side. We have this one. So the rays in the figure, we have now ray HM. Take note, ray HM is the same as ray HA and ray HT. They are all the same. We are pertaining to this ray, the whole ray. Because if we just took it from here, HT, ray HT, it can be extended to the left because the arrowhead is here. So it will also pass through points A and point M. So that's one ray. Another ray is we have ray TM, or that can be named as ray TA. And the third one is ray AM. Now, if we put back the removed extension of the line at the right and remove the extension on the left, we have here other sets of rays. We have ray MA or ray MT or ray MH. Second, we have ray AT or ray AH. And last, we have ray TH. So there are all 6 rays in the given original figure. So those are the two subsets of a line. We have the line segment and array. Next, we have angles. This is a figure of an angle. Now, from this figure, when we say angles, these are formed by two rays that have a common endpoint called the vertex. So the two rays here are ray BA and ray BC. And take note, they meet at a common endpoint called the vertex. So the vertex of this angle is B. In naming angles, there are 3 ways. First, we can use the 3 points that are found on the angle. One on the ray, one for the vertex, and 1 point on the other ray. Take note that in naming an angle using 3 capital letters or the points that are found on the angle, the middle letter should represent the vertex of the angle. So we can name it in 2 ways. That's angle ABC or angle CBA. The first and the last letter can be interchanged, but the middle letter must always be the vertex. Aside from naming an angle using 3 capital letters, we can also name it using a single letter, and that is the vertex of the angle. But this is only applicable when there is only one angle formed using that vertex. So if there are 2 or more angles that are formed using that vertex, say for example, we have another ray here, then we cannot use the vertex to name an angle. But in this case, since there is only one angle formed using that vertex, then we can name that as angle B. And aside from that, if you have noticed, there is a number inside the angle. So the last way in naming an angle is using a number. And that number can be seen inside the angle. So we can name that angle 1. So these are the 3 ways in naming an angle. So if you're going to ask about the different angles formed in this figure. So you can name many, isn't it? Will you name some? Okay, very good. Some of it are angle CIT, angle OIN, angle CIO, angle AIT, and many more. Take note, in this figure, you cannot name the angles using the vertex, which is point I, because there are many angles that are formed using that vertex. So if you have angle I, then you will not determine which one is angle I. Next, do you know this figure? What do we call it? Very good. It's a protractor. Now, when do we use a protractor? Very good. They are used in measuring angles. So an angle can be measured using a protractor and the unit is expressed in degrees. Or in symbol, we have this one. So from this protractor, we can see here that if this is the original ray, or if one ray is this one to the right, from center to the right, then if our second ray represents the lines here, then an angle with this one, it measures 10 degrees. From the center of the protractor, we have here an angle measuring 90 degrees. And if we have half of a circle or the whole protractor, then we have 180 degrees. So if, say for example, we have this one ray is to the left, horizontal to the left, and another ray is here to the upper right. What's the measurement of this angle? Very good. It's 130 degrees. It's between 120 and 140 degrees. It's not 50 degrees because one end is at this one. That means that horizontal ray is your basis in determining the measurement of the angle. So if the horizontal ray is at the left, then we use the outer numbers in the protractor to determine the measurement. But if the horizontal ray is on this right part or is to the right, then we use the inner numbers to measure the angle. Let's have now the different kinds of angles according to their measurement. First, we have the right angle. It's an angle whose measure is exactly 90 degrees. You can easily determine a right angle because there's a clue on the figure. And that is when you see a square or a rectangle figure inside the angle beside the vertex. Another kind is an acute angle. It's an angle whose measure is greater than 0 but less than 90 degrees. Third, obtuse angle. It's an angle whose measure is greater than 90 degrees but less than 180 degrees. And fourth, straight angle. It's an angle whose measure is exactly 180 degrees. And last, we have reflex angle. It's an angle whose measure is greater than 180 degrees but less than 360 degrees. Let's have their figures. For right angle, we have this one. As what I have told you, there is a square figure inside the angle. Automatic, that means it's a right angle. So given figures of angles, the right angle is the easiest angle to determine. And another angle which is easy to determine is the straight angle because it looks like a straight line. It's a horizontal line because the two rays meet at the common endpoint to form a straight line. That's why it is called straight angle. And when we say acute angle, it's less than the right angle. So your basis in determining if it's acute or obtuse is the right angle. Take note, for right angles, we form 90 degrees. So if it's less than 90 degrees, then it's an acute angle. It's small. Therefore, it's cute. It's a cute angle. For obtuse angle, your basis is it's between it's between a right and a straight angle. It's more than a right angle and less than the measurement of a straight angle. And reflex angle is greater than or more than the measurement of a straight angle. So given here, the figure of a reflex angle, if the angle is outside, that means it extends or it's more than the measurement of a straight angle, because if we're going to make a straight angle, it would be here. Then it's a reflex angle. But take note, the inner side here, the angle opposite the reflex angle, is an obtuse angle. So if we're going to go back to the figures of an acute and obtuse angle, the outer part of those two angles are reflex angles. So in here we have reflex angle here and reflex angle here. So those are the different kinds of angles. And that ends our discussion for the introduction in geometry. But before we end this video, remember what we have discussed, that there are three undefined terms. We have the point, the line, and the plane. And there are two subsets of a line. We have the line segment and a ray. And there are five kinds of angles. We have acute angle, right angle, obtuse angle, straight angle, and of course, we have the reflex angle. That's all. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.